Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to our Quran class. Can everyone hear me? Just let me know in the chat that you guys can hear me. Okay, thanks, Amna. Alright, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillah subhanalladhi hadana lihada wa ma kunna linahtadiya lawla an hadana Allah. لقد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق قالوا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت عليم الحكيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي يفوض أمري إلى الله بصير بالعباد الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الله الذي أذهب الله عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you everyone for joining us yet again for another session in our journey to explore not only the book of God which is written in text, but also the book of God that we are. The book of God that is open and manifest, and it is a journey for us to explore and to understand and to recognize, and so that we can move beyond the veils that hide from us what is actually manifest, and the veils that hide ourselves from ourselves. So inshallah, we are doing Surah Fatiha, and it is the beauty of this surah, which is the opening, where the opening never stops. There are so many unveilings, and there are so many levels and layers to the understanding of not just Surah Fatiha but the whole of Quran. But it is said that the whole of Quran is encapsulated within this surah, and whatever is encapsulated within this surah is in its Bismillah, and whatever is in its Bismillah is in the Ba, and whatever is in the Ba is in the dot of Bismillah. And a lot of times this is attributed to our holy Imam, Imam Ali alayhi salam. And I would like to share something about Imam Ali alayhi salam that the mystics so profoundly revere, that Imam Ali always said that I do not worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the temptation of heaven, or nor do I worship him for the fear of hell, but I worship him because I find him worthy of worship. So we are understanding that there's a level to worship which goes beyond the understanding of this idea of black and white, this idea of always doing something for the right and the wrong. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts to teach us this, not only just through the books, but because of what we observe in our life around us, that a human being is so complex, and a human being has so many facets and so many colors that it is impossible to put a human being in its true essence into boxes of black and white or right and wrong. And so when the holy and so when we look at the saying of Imam Ali alayhi salam, there's another insight into this ideology of moving into a sense of worship which is beyond heaven and hell. It is the worship of surrender. It is a worship of true love, because what Imam Ali alayhi salam explains very explicitly is very connected to one of the ayats in the Holy Quran, which is La ikraha fi din. There is no compulsion or force in religion. And why that becomes so relevant here is because when we look at Allah's names Rahman and Rahim, we understand that it's all about His mercy, it's all about His love. And so if you look at the name of Allah Ar-Rahman, we look at Surah Furqan, ayah number 63, which you can see on your screens, hopefully, inshallah. And just a second, I'm going to sort out my screen. Yeah, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. It's a very beautiful ayat in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to His servants as the servants of the most merciful. And He says that the servants of the most merciful are those who walk upon the earth easily, and when the ignorant address them harshly, they say words of peace. So now where I'm taking you from here is the connection of Ibadur Rahman to the Rahman. Right, that is the journey. The journey is from the Ubudiyya to the Malik, to the master. And so the servant has to have an etiquette, has to have a discipline, has to understand the way of the path to the merciful. And it is Allah's beauty that He is calling His servant as the servant of the most merciful. Over here, there are certain points that I want to bring up. The first one, as I mentioned, was the point of surrender out of love and having no compulsion in religion. And so therefore, the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is about mercy and love, is directly connected to the idea of surrender. And how is that? First of all, the name Allah itself, in this book that I'm using by Daniel Thomas, he's done a beautiful book on the names of Allah. And when he's explaining the name of God, he's actually saying that in Arabic, we find that Allah, the name Allah carries the idea of crazy love. This is the kind of love that nothing can stop, that is overflowing. God is madly in love with everything. It also carries the idea of both yes, which is denoting with al, and no in the la. So al-la, yes and no. It lovingly embraces all possibilities. So we have discussed the idea of polarities in our previous session. We talked about Allah's names of Lutf and Qahar, and we spoke about Allah's names of Jalal and Jamal, I think. If I haven't, please write it in the chat, because I think I might get mixed up with the other sessions I'm doing. So I apologize if I haven't. But the idea of crazy love is the idea where one wants to surrender in worship, in servitude, out of love. And the hadith that Qudsi, the hadith Qudsi, which is I will repeat it, that the hadith Qudsi in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, thank you Marzi, thank you. Okay, so the hadith Qudsi that we've been referring to off and on, where Allah says that the one who yearns for me finds me, and the one who finds me likes me, and the one who likes me loves me, and then the one who loves me, I love him, I fall in love with him. And when I love him, I kill him. And then I have to give blood money, and then for blood money, I give myself to him. Now, this is very poetic. This is something of the heart. The brains cannot grasp it. And we have been constantly talking about how to take this journey of the heart. And so the whole idea of surrender then, and to be able to really completely give yourself away and to really be in a state of fana can only come when somebody falls in love. And there are stages to this love. There are stages where when we seek, Allah will take us to that stage. And in my discussions with my philosophy teacher, and we were actually discussing yesterday, that the part where Allah is saying that when I have to give blood money, I kill and I give myself to my beloved as blood money, he was emphasizing the idea that this cannot be done by us. The journey of the human being actually cannot go past beyond a certain stage. It has to be then done by Allah through us. So what he was trying to explain was very simply, in a few words, was that we cannot do it, it has to be done to us. And so what the human being can actually do is just keep yearning. And when we keep yearning, we are becoming the servants. We are becoming the beggars who are yearning. We're asking, right? Servants are the one who beg in humility. And what are we asking for? We are asking for our beloved. And we're asking for our beloved because now we know him. We have some sort of ma'rifah. We have some sort of irfan. We have some sort of knowing of this beauty, of this jamal, of this creator, of this most merciful Lord. And once we have fallen in love, because now we have some sort of glimpse of who he is, then as a servant, we can yearn. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who would take us there, who would bring us to that place of fana, who would remove the ego. We cannot do it. It's something that has to be done to us. Our job in every moment is just to keep yearning for it. Now, there are certain aspects to this love that we have already discussed. But like we said, that the name of Allah is Al and La. And I would like to share over here something that Ibn Arabi mentions in his, there's a book by Titus Burkhardt, Astrology of Ibn Arabi. I'm just opening that book. And we were actually discussing it just yesterday, so I found it very relevant. If I can just find it. Yes. So in his book, Mystical Astrology, according to Ibn Arabi by Titus Burkhardt, on page number 14, he says that the pedestal on which are placed the feet of the one who is sitting on the throne represents the first polarization or distinctive determination with respect to formal manifestation. Now, it's a really heavy book. In fact, when we read this book, we have to read one paragraph a few times to make any sense of it. But just to bring it into our discussion, what is written in the book is the pedestal on which are placed the feet of the one who is sitting on the throne. Now, the throne, as we all know, is the arsh, and the pedestal on which the throne is placed. Now, these are just imaginative expressions by the mystics who have expressed their visions, and a lot of times these visions cannot be put into words. They are mystical experiences, and it is their generosity to share these ideas with us. So they end up coming out in such heavy language that it has to be decoded. And so if you imagine a pedestal on which there is a throne, and then you say that there are 2 feet of the one. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no figurative body form or anything like that. But Allah himself understands the nature of the human being. And Allah himself refers to ideas of his 2 hands in the Quran. And he refers to his face in the Quran. Because when Allah says, in the Bible, Allah says that he created man in his image. And then in Surah number 30, ayah number 30, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about fitratullahi. I don't remember the Arabic right now, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that fatara nasa, the fitrat of insan is made on the fitrat of Allah. So there is this fitrat there is this nature on which we've been, we are reflecting. We are a reflection of his fitrat. We are a reflection of his image in every way, because Allah is manifesting himself, and he's saying that I made you my vicegerent, I made you my representative, and representative, as we discussed, will reflect the qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in truth, everything manifests Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the pedestal, the idea of the pedestal, the 2 feet and his throne. So the throne is the arsh, and the arsh is the heart of the believer. And then Allah is saying that the very first polarization happens at the threshold of the arsh. There are 2 feet. So from oneness, there is a movement into multiplicity. There is a movement into duality. And that duality is what I want to bring into your attention through this ayah, which is Surah Furqan, ayah number 63, the servants of the most merciful. And so the most merciful, why is he talking about this journey of the servant? And he's referring to them as the servant of the most merciful, is because when we start to walk upon this path of the heart, there has to be so much reliance on the fitra, on the inner voice, on the heart and the voice of the heart, that the person who is in a state of conditioning of rationality, the person who has always relied on logic, on 2 + 2 = 4, who has relied upon the right and the wrong, who has relied upon the black and the white, now has to move away from all of those given formulas, all of those written prescriptions by others. There is a movement from duality into oneness, and that oneness then becomes you and your heart. Now you cannot have another person telling you what is right and what is wrong. And that is why Imam Ali, when he's worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's a complete connection of the heart. There is no intervening or interference of an external journey, because to make this journey a tawheedi journey, to make this journey of the muwahid, the one who is in a state of oneness, then will have to move into the place of the heart, out of duality. And so to move out of duality, we have to move out of the ideas of having somebody else dictate to us this journey. And when we start that journey, it is so intimidating that again and again, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not only when he's talking about Surah Fatiha, not only there is he mentioning his names of Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim and Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim in a state, in a repetitive state, because once he says Rahman and Rahim in Bismillah, and then when he starts the Surah Al-Fatiha, he's talking about the opening of the heart, as we discussed. He is now saying Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And we discussed that Alameen are the inner worlds. And when we open our hearts and we enter the journey of the inner worlds, and we want to understand our emotions, our attachments, our conditionings, our traumas, our anxieties, and our fears, then states start to take over us in these journeys. States of anxiety, states of panic, states of feeling scared, because now you don't have anyone to blame. Now you are not going to say, well, my journey was such because I asked somebody and they gave me this prescription or this way, and I need to follow this path. And so, everything is written down for me. It's not like that anymore. So there is a lot of, moving back and forth between self-reliance, and self-reliance becomes a process of experiment. Ibn Sina actually explains this in a little bit detail, and I'm going to come to that. And so it is so important that we absorb within our hearts the bubble of mercy that surrounds us. Dr. Wayne Dyer says that if you knew who is holding your hand and walking with you in this journey, then fear and doubt would never come near you. And fear and doubt are part and parcel of this journey, because it's a journey of the child who is learning to walk, who's scared to stand on its own 2 feet. So the child has to now rely on its own 2 feet, but the power to walk is not his, and the readiness to walk is not his to decide. And when will he start walking on his own is not for him to determine. And so in this journey where we want to create this completely intimate and intense connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where there is constant conversation and there's constant remembrance and there's constant praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you see we enter this journey with a lot of fear and anxiety. And this fear and anxiety is explained by many, many mystics. And so for us to be able to move forward, it needs a lot of understanding of Allah's mercy. And so when we surrender our hearts to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in love with Him, in this deep yearning for Him and asking for Him, oh Allah, I don't want anything, I just want you. And we start to become blinded to, we put this blindfold to everything else. It becomes this, forward focused journey where everything else becomes irrelevant. The heart has to become the pilot. And when the heart becomes the pilot, then there is a journey of sieving out the thoughts. And that is what Ibn Sina has said in his, in his book, Al-Isharat, if I'm not wrong. And what he's explaining is about the faculties of the soul. And so what he explains is that in the faculties of the soul, we have the imaginal world. Now, what is this imaginal world comprised of? I want to dissect ourselves, who we are, and how we actually come to this place of the imaginal world. What constitutes these thoughts, so that we can actually see the voice of God. I'm just going to get my notes and explain that just a second. So in these notes, Ibn Sina is explaining that there are 5 faculties. And I'm just going to give you the Arabic names, because it's important that we make ourselves acquainted to these words. He says that the first of it is al-his al-mushtarak, which is the common sense. Now, it's not the common sense which we usually talk about. What this is that he says that there is, so if we could imagine that the gadget or the device which is going to create this communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we have to see the components of this device. What is this device made up of? And what is it that is the passage, the process of assimilating and making sense of these thoughts and voices within us. So if we can understand what voice is coming from where, then we will be able to, hopefully in our yearning and with Allah's help, come to a place where there can be clarity to this voice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So first is this common sense, which he calls common sense, and that's just a projector screen where all the experiences from our 5 senses show up. So there's a faculty within us which is able to help us have an experience through our 5 senses. So if I'm hearing, if I'm seeing, if I'm talking, if I'm touching, then there is a faculty within me which takes up that input and makes sense of it. So there's information that is just coming in, and I'm seeing that information. The second faculty is al-musawwira, and al-musawwira holds this experience. It collects this information. It's the hard drive, or it's the USB, or it's the memory card that holds these experiences. So that's two. That's the second faculty. The third one is al-waham. And al-waham is the estimative faculty, which is where there is an analysis to the experiences we have. So it will give emotion to that experience. It will give desires and judgments and likes and dislikes to these experiences. So first of all, we experience through the senses, and there's a faculty which helps us experience something. The second faculty stores it as a memory. The third faculty gives it an emotion of fear, judgment, like, dislike. The fourth one is al-dakira, which is the memory. Here is where the emotion that was attached to the experience is stored, right? So first was an experience, second was storing the experience, third was the emotion to the experience, and fourth is storing that emotion to the experience. So we have these four faculties, and the fifth final faculty is actually the faculty which is called the imagination, which is the mutakhayyila. Now mutakhayyila is really, really important for us to understand our communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just give me a second. So why I say that is because it is in the imaginal world that we see dreams, we see visions, and we go into daydreams, and then we hear thoughts, and we hear ideas. And what the imagination is, it is the faculty which takes components from all the other four that I just discussed, and now it will give us that freedom to create something out of whatever I have stored in my memory, right? So whatever experiences I had and whatever emotions I attached to those experiences, they are now stored within me. And now that they're stored within me, now I have the ability to format that information and make something new out of it. So the faculty of imagination divides and composes, separates and combines objects from the other memories that we have. And what good is knowing all this technical information about, I have these faculties and this is what's going on, is because we can now start to understand that as a human being, I have the capacity to separate my experience from my emotion. And I have the ability to say, well, there's a separate compartment for the, for the likes and my dislikes and the fears. And the experience itself is something very objective, which is separate. And when we separate these, we are able to get a clarity. We're able to see things as they are, as we have a hadith of the Holy Prophet where he says, oh Allah, show me things as they really are, and not let them get blurred by my likes and dislikes, not get the vision skewed by my inability to see, by my emotions. Don't let it get clouded. And in that sense, what we can say is that the separation of the likes and dislikes and fears and judgments, that quwwat wahmiya, we can say that that is where the ego emerges. And because our discussion is about surrendering our ego and becoming that servant who surrendered, we have to understand what ego is. And that's why we have to understand who we are. And if we don't understand who we are, we can't understand our Rabb, right? قَدْ عَرَفَ نَفْسَهُ فَقَدْ عَرَفَ رَبَّهُ. So that is why I really felt it was important that I give this explanation. And so in order to create the clarity of this vision, I want to share something from, again, Secrets of Divine Love, where she explains that what is the ego. And she actually puts this, this way of explaining ego. She uses this, I think, acronym, and she says, ego is edging God out, right? And so when our feelings, emotions, likes, dislikes, judgments skew our vision of reality, uh, it is this whale that takes away from us uh, to see the real, the haq, right? And what she says is that the ego is the translucent steam created when the light of the spirit touches the clay. In other words, like a fog that distorts our vision, the ego is a veil between our consciousness and our spirit. The purification and detachment of the ego is so vital within Islam, because the more we purify the illusions of the self, the more we are able to witness the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So she's put it so briefly and so beautifully, that ego is that uh, distance that is created between the symbol and its meaning, right? We were discussing the idea of symbols and archetypes, and we were discussing that there is a reality behind everything we see. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that everywhere you turn is the face of God, then he says that wherever you turn are my signs, my ayat. And so everything is speaking to us. Everything is the face of God. Now, what is the face of God? Face of God is not only just a way of identifying. So my face, you'll see my face, you say this is Fatma, right? So there's an identification to who I really am. My face is not all who I am, but to be able to have a connection with who I am, you create an identity through that face. Now, if everywhere you turn is the face of God, then that means everything is identifying with the haq. Everything is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifested. And therefore, the journey that we're talking about, the journey of the pedestal and the throne of the arsh, where the 2 feet and the polarization of multiplicity is all about my own understanding of moving from oneness to duality and then back again. In philosophy, it's also called ascent and descent. So it's like a circle. We come down and then we go back up, which is represented very beautifully by Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We come and then we go back. So we come from oneness into duality, and from duality again we have to go to oneness. And that's the cycle of moving towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore, before I get distracted into more things that I want to explain, the journey of the ego is to let go of our conditionings, our judgments, our ideas of right and wrong, our ideas of beliefs, our ideas of black and white. But I'm not saying we go against religion. We do go against beliefs in that sense. We go against, the Sharia. I'm not talking about that. But what I am talking about over here is that within our real life journey on the ground, we will have to be using our own faculties. And that faculty will be that one voice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we have to surrender to that voice, because that voice from the heart has to now be purified. And Ibn Sina, again and again, in the imaginal world, because that is why I explained what the imaginal world is. Imaginal world is where we make use of all of our experiences and our emotions. He says that to be able to distinguish this voice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our hearts, it will take practice. It will take trial and error. It will take mistakes for you to move forward. You will fall and you will stand up. And that is why states of anxiety and fear come over. And so when he's explaining these states, it is so beautiful that the servant who has surrendered himself, right? When we surrender our likes and dislikes, we're actually surrendering this veil of the ego that keeps us away from seeing the truth and the reality. So imagine talking to a scholar uh, and knowing that the ideas that the scholar is giving to you are maybe archaic or obsolete, and you have come across a new theory about something, or you have stumbled upon a theory that makes more sense and you can prove it step by step, and you know that is the new truth, right? And you go to the scholar, and the scholar, out of his like and dislike, his bias and judgment, and his conditioning and his beliefs, refuses to really listen to you, right? And you're trying to talk and you're trying to say, well, you know, if you go from step 1 to step 2, then this will happen and then this will happen, and you've got it all figured out. But the scholar is not willing to listen. The scholar has a set system of belief, a set system of conditioning, where he's saying, no, but what is my truth is my truth, and I don't want to see what you're telling me. This is what will skew his vision from seeing things as they are. This egoic way of approaching information or knowledge, of having a set system of beliefs, will prevent this scholar from seeing the reality which is already in front of him, the truth which is already there, waiting to be discovered and explored. In fact, it's being spoon fed, but he doesn't want to take it in. And this is the state of, which we see of the people in Karbala who had Imam Hussein in front of them, but they could not see, because there's a veil that takes over, the veil of our likes and dislikes, our judgments, our beliefs, our conditioning. And the original, Islam that the Holy Prophet brought in its original state uh, was so different from what it has become today, that when it is said that when the last Imam Mahdi, is going to bring the true Islam back to us, it will be the Muslims who will find it the most difficult to accept it. Because when the truth will come to them, it will be truth in its complete naked form, so raw and real, that all those layers of our judgments that we've covered the truth with, this will look alien to us. We won't be able to handle it. We won't be able to see it while it will be standing in front of it. And that is why it is said that, oh Allah, give me that basira to see reality as it is, to give me that vision so that I can recognize truth when it comes to me, in front of me. And that is why this surrender in love to the Rahman is so important, but it's working in both ways. You see, when we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the most merciful, we fall in love with him. And when we fall in love with him, this love enables us to surrender and give up our own likes and dislikes, and give priority to what he likes and dislikes. Right? And then we want to become that empty vessel in which we don't have our own decisions, but we have his decisions working through us. But when we go on that journey and we want to surrender, then states of fear and anxiety will come, because now we become a lonely traveler in this journey. And sometimes teachers will come, and sometimes helpers will come, and helpers keep coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah says that, my help is near you. It's not like the help is near you in future tense, or it's going to come. The help is always accessible. It's right there. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in one of those stories where they say that somebody was drowning and they were telling Allah, help me, help me, help me. And then a fisherman comes with a boat and says, come, let me help you in this boat. And he says, no, I don't want your help. I want Allah's help. And Allah then says that my help doesn't come in some magical, way. It will come through wasila. So Allah's help is always near us. It is coming to us in so many ways all the time. He says that, with difficulty there is ease. In hardship there is ease. That is the help which is always near us. there's always be a hand holding us and guiding us if we are seeking. And the condition for this journey is to be a seeker, is to be yearning. In this journey, there will be trial and error, and there will be surrender, and then surrender out of love will be enveloped in His mercy. And that is why I believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has used this beautiful word of He's saying that wa ibadur rahman, the servants of the most merciful. And if we go ahead in this ayat in Surah Furqan, ayat number 63, Allah says, and the servants of the most merciful are those who walk upon the earth easily. Now, easily over here is, a lot of times it's translated as with humility. And that was where I wanted to bring our discussion, that this humility comes when the ego goes, right? When there is work being done on the ego. So the servant of the merciful will traverse through this earthly journey in a state of humility, in a state of surrender, in the state of surrender of the heart. And then it says, and when the ignorant address them harshly, they say words of peace. Why would they be addressed harshly? Why should a servant of the merciful be addressed harshly? That's my question. And the answer that I believe Allah has inspired for me to share with you is that when we go on this individual journey, then there will be opposition. The way the Holy Prophet faced, the way Imam Hussein faced, and the way jihadun nafs is, the nature is that we start to come out looking weird or, one of a kind, or, we stick out and we don't make sense to other people. So many mystics were persecuted for their originality and for their, uniqueness, and because their ideas wouldn't make sense. And then the very same mystics have been praised by our scholars. So there is this idea of going on a jihad where there is opposition. There will be, places where we feel that we don't fit in. There will be times when we will feel so alone that we will feel like we're in strange lands. And I don't know if it's in I think it's in Dua Mashlul where Allah says, where we're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are my Lord in strange places, where I'm in strange places. And so the traveler to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will go through different landscapes of the heart. And when we take that journey of the heart, it is going to be difficult, and there will be harsh realities that we will have to face. And when we face those harsh realities, we have to keep going back to the most merciful and remember that my surrender is to the most merciful, the one who embraces me, the one who holds me, the one who understands that I will falter, I will make mistakes, and I will not know at all times what to do, and then keep going back to saying, Allah, I give you my heart. Allah, I give you my heart, I give you my state. I want you to hold me. I want you to be the pilot. I want you to be the shepherd of this journey. And so we keep going moment to moment into these states of handing over ourselves and our journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we keep doing that, a lot of times, in the initial stages, the zikr is given to us, and we read the zikr. But a lot of times I've come across, these are states of the mystics, and I'm just a parrot, and I'm just sharing it with you. May Allah give us these experiences. But what they say is that we start to, like we said, that this servitude and this surrender is something we yearn for, but only Allah will make it happen, right? So in the same manner, when we try to emulate the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is something I just discussed with my teacher yesterday, and he was explaining to me that when we yearn to emulate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through his names, right, we can only yearn, we can only ask, We can only try. We can only just, do some sort of a role play. But the work will be done by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when that happens, then that person who is emulating Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every moment will start to manifest that name in a way that uh, they become the name. They become the name. They're not given a name. There's a difference. It's like Allah's beauty shines through them. It's like Allah's Rahmaniyya shines through them. And I want to share something before I end the session, because I had promised that I'd be keeping the sessions 45 minutes. So um, what I want to share is this: is that the hadith of the Holy Prophet, "Takhallaku bi akhlaqillah," adopt the character of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what was beautiful is that in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the colors, the color of Allah. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about, his colors, um, they say that Sibghatullah is actually not just painting, but it's dyeing. It's this dye which seeps through and through, which becomes part and parcel and changes the alchemy. It alchemizes the object. It just changes. It dyes you. It doesn't just paint on top. Like makeup. It's an internal transformation. It completely, you get absorbed in it, and that is a state that may Allah give to us. In becoming that Abdul Rahman, in becoming that servant of the merciful, who can then really be in a state of surrender. Well, then only Allah's color is shining through that vessel. And the other way of understanding it is this, is what I said, is that when we go and we start to do a play on theater, and we start to absorb that character to the extent where I've given this example of the character of Joker from the movie Batman or something. I'm not a big fan, but I personally feel that these characters, if you absorb them to a really, really on a really, really seriously deep level, and Allah works through you, then actually it becomes part of you. You become that. So I just wanted to share that. And over here, I would like to give a little story from a little bit from the poet Samani, which Ariza El-Helwa has quoted in her book. And she says that there must be a garbage pit next to a lofty palace, so that all the refuse and filth that gather in the palace can be thrown there. She's explaining the reasoning of the ego. Why is there an ego? And this is where I want to connect it to the throne and the 2 feet. That in the world of the manifest, in the realm of multiplicity, it is very important to have opposites, to have this duality. Because without this duality, we cannot truly have a marifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ourselves. And so she's saying that when Allah is creating this beautiful human being and he's blowing his spirit into this human being, it's like the palace. But next to the palace, there needs to be a garbage can so that the trash from that palace can be thrown. This is poet Samani, and he has explained the ego with this analogy. And he's saying that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the same way, whenever Allah formed a heart by means of the light of purity, he also placed the lower ego next to it as a dustbin. This black spot of ignorance flies on the same wings as the jewel of purity. And then she goes on and she's quoting, and he says, a straight arrow needs a crooked bow. O heart, you be like the straight arrow. O ego, you take the shape of a crooked bow. So opposites work together, purity with this trash can, light with this darkness, straight arrow with this crooked bow. These are just analogies to make us understand that we need these opposites in the world of the manifest to move forward. And then she gives a story of Mullah Nasiruddin. I think that there's a man who leaves everything, and he has money and everything, and he says, I can't find happiness, right? So he comes to this Sheikh Nasiruddin and he says, I can't find joy, I can't find happiness. And Mullah Nasiruddin says that, what have you got? And he's got his pile of money with him, and he's like, but nothing gives me happiness. So he takes his bag of the money and he runs away. Sheikh Nasiruddin runs away with his money, and the guy's running after him, and he's panting and he's anxious and all of that. And then Mullah Nasiruddin just drops the bag in front of him and hides away somewhere. So when this man comes running, he finds the bag of his money. And when he sees it, he's so happy and he's so joyful. He's like, oh, my money, I found it, and he's happy. And so the moral of the story was that, a lot of times we are put in situations where until and unless something is not taken away, we don't find value in it. And the whole analogy of this dunya is that we have been separated from our source. We have been separated from our home. We've been separated from that realm where we have come from. And it's in this realm of separation that we can have that value and yearning to go back home, because now we miss it. And Rumi gives a beautiful example of the fish out of water, that until and unless the fish is not thrown out of the water, will it not learn to, tremble in the yearning for the water. So, وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. I would like to end the session over here with a dua. Oh Allah, we are weak. Oh Allah, we forget. Oh Allah, moment to moment, we go into states of oblivion. We lose track, we lose focus. Oh Allah, purify our intentions. Oh Allah, we are helpless. We can only yearn. Oh Allah, take us and make us yours. Oh Allah, we do not have the power. We do not have any power over our journeys or ourselves. The only thing we can do is come to you as beggars, as faqir, as fuqara. Oh Allah. Oh Allah, fill our bowls with your love. Oh Allah, fill our bowls with you and enable us to be one of those friends of yours who are your special friends, Ya Allah. We can only yearn. Only you have the power to make us worthy, Ya Allah. We are not worthy. We are nothing. Oh Allah, fill our hearts with your love so that none of us remains. None of me remains, Ya Allah. I disappear. Ya Allah, just make it yours and make my vessel empty. Ya Allah, make our vessels empty of ourselves so that only you may reside in there. Oh Allah, give us the guidance. Keep us on the right path. Keep us steadfast. We are forgetful. We go into states of slumber and sleep, Ya Allah. We forget your mercy. We forget you surround us. We forget your help, your nusrat, Ya Allah. Remind us of your mercy and help in moments of anxiety, in moments of fear, in moments of weakness, in moments when we lose track. Ya Allah, never ever take us away from your voice. Never ever take us away from hearing your guidance, Ya Allah. Keep us close to you. The biggest punishment for your beloved, Ya Allah, for your seeker is distance from you. As Imam Ali says, that I may be in hell, but Ya Allah, what will I do if I'm away from you? Oh Allah, make us your one of your best friends and enable us to find those qualities and characteristics so that we can become those who can see the truth when the truth comes. Ya Allah, when Imam Mahdi comes, make us his companion and may he return soon to us and make us ready for him. Oh Allah, heal this world with your love and light and mercy. Oh Allah, remind the world of your love and light and beauty and mercy that surrounds us, but we become oblivious to us. Oh Allah, heal this world. Ameen. I'm going to stop the recording now. So if anybody has